And good evening, everybody. Welcome to the 59N Sports District 9 and District 10 3A report. Here we're on 59N Sports. Thanks for tuning in to our YouTube channel and following this. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Randy's Rubs. Don't forget to go to randysrubs.com. Give them a like, give them a share. And don't forget to go to randysrubs.com and go ahead and get some of that seasoning over there. 13, this is it. You can't go wrong. I promise you, it don't suck. Go see my buddy Randy Nance there at Randy's Rubs and enjoy. I promise you, you'll clean out the spice rack at the house once you get some of this there from Randy's Rubs. I got another guy that I'm going to start promoting this next week in with some salsa that we picked up. Brian Besh sitting in with me tonight with Polk County Enterprise. And we went to Fair on the Square in Huntsville, and there's a South Texas Salsa Company, I think was the name of it is. We picked up some of their salsa, absolutely phenomenally good. They got a Facebook page and stuff out there. It's worth going and getting.
So what are you putting the rub on? That's what I got to know.
So pretty much whatever I want. But I cook anything from my steaks, deer meat, whatever I'm cooking, I just throw some of that.
So basically any meat.
Yeah, anything.
Okay.
Poultry. Now you can use the 13 and use it more on your chickens, your steaks, and stuff like that. But I've used this as my go-to, and I absolutely love it. I put it in my eggs.
All right.
Whenever I'm doing scrambled eggs or whatever it may be, I throw it in there and use it on it. So get over there to randysrubs.com and get you some, because I promise you, you're not going to be disappointed.
So not necessarily just a barbecue rub, but you can throw that on anything.
No, it's an all-purpose seasoning.
All right.
All-purpose seasoning.
Good deal.
Really, really, really good. So I wouldn't promote them if I didn't think it was good. And
Right.
Much like you, Brian, I like to eat. So,
Definitely.
We got to roll with it. But let's talk about District. Let's jump into District 10 3A real quick.
Okay.
And let's talk about that district. As we were done our shows throughout this year, and we have been very confident with Anahuac and with what they have done this year, in the road that they've been heading down. And you go to SETX and everything else, and it's talking about, will Anahuac lose a game? Will they this? Will they that? Well, this last week, they lost their first one of the first district game. Let's be clear on it. They lose that game to Orangefield. 25-15 was the final over there.
Yeah.
Definitely wasn't. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Talking to Trent over there at Anahuac Sports Live, he was telling me, he's like, man, the wing tee, they just couldn't shut it down. The running game that Orangefield had, it's a tough thing to stop. And we talked about it in another podcast. We'll kind of bleed it over to here as well.
Sure.
But whenever you've played 5 games going into that week, and 4 of those games were against spread style offenses, and then now you're looking at a slot T or a double wing. It's a whole different look.
Yeah.
And you got 9 guys coming straight forward at you.
If an offense like that can stay ahead of the chains and not fall behind the chains, if they can put themselves in good situations after that first down, if they can put themselves in a 2nd and 4, 2nd and 3, a 3rd and 1, even a 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, because that's what they do. It doesn't really matter where they're at on the field. I mean, that offense is designed to pick up those 1 and 2 yard gains. They are incredibly dangerous, and if they get a lead on you, that clock starts to dwindle down, and that's whenever the offense on the other side starts to get in kind of a hurry-up mode, whether they want to or not, because there's almost a panic there of, we're not going to have very many possessions out of this. We may only get 3 possessions in this half because they're going to hold the ball.
Yes.
And so it forces the other team into a lot of mistakes that way, and you get to a point to where it's unforced. Yeah, it's unforced errors to where they're not really doing anything super special other than holding the time of possession, and they're just cranking out first down after first down until, before you know it, they've run an 18-play drive into the end zone, and you look up and half the
ate up
quarter's
11
gone.
minutes.
Yeah. So I can easily see where something like that happens, and we talked about it before. Orangefield has run that offense their entire lives.
Yep.
They start from Pee Wee football and they go all the way up because it's what they've done forever, and it suits those kids over there because it's. I mean, I can't even remember how many times Coach Vanover has said it because they've played him. Livingston's played him several times. He calls them big roughneck oil field boys, and they're the sons of them, and it's just that type of mentality that fits that school over there, and they do an incredible job with it.
Another team out of that district, Buna defeats Kirbyville this last week, and it was a game that we kind of talked about a little bit. Didn't know really with the coaching drama and stuff that was going on over there at Buna. Didn't know how that was really going to play out. But Buna, a commanding win over Kirbyville this last week, 42-16 was the final there. I think Buna's got their feet up underneath them and the drama behind them, and they're ready to play football.
Kids are resilient. Kids are very resilient, and it almost doesn't matter what you throw their way. Once they get on the field, a lot of times they're going to be playing ball. I mean,
that's their scapegoat, right?
Yeah.
They get away from everything, and it's just you take it, you leave it all out on the field.
It's a way to get away for sure. You've got there's certain situations where you can see it affecting a high school kid, but I'd say they played a really, really close game. I was surprised at the score with Corrigan Camden, who I think is one of the top schools in the area this year in football. And it's a team that's got 21 seniors. And they started the season off with them, and, that was a 4-point game if I remember right.
Yep.
They took and gave Corrigan everything that they wanted in that opening game. And I just remember being surprised because there was so much going on over there at Buna, but this is a talented football team that easily has potential to win plenty of games and go a few rounds in the playoffs.
Homecoming night for Tarkington this last week. They get the win against Hardin. 14-6 was the final there.
Mm-hmm.
Talking to some people yesterday, the score doesn't reflect the game. Tarkington turned the ball over 3 times in the red zone and gave it back to Hardin. So we're essentially taking scores off the board that could have possibly been in that situation with the way they were moving the ball downfield. 14-6 was the final there. Hardin, not a very good football team, but whenever I sit down and I look at this and I go back and I look at how I had this district shaping up and some comments that I've made and getting under ruffling some feathers over in Liberty County, when you go back and you look at this and you look at that game there, and that's what you got to kind of go by, and what else is going on out of District 10-3 and District 10, I got to think I'm still pretty spot on.
Hardin's had some decent teams over the past decade plus. This doesn't look like it's going to be one of those years. Tarkington we've mentioned it a few times on some other shows, but they've kind of been up and down to where they've had some historic years as far as what they've done in football, because let's face it, their football history, it's not a very good one. It's not one that you would go around bragging about. But here in the past few years, you got to give them a lot of credit because they've kind of come out of nowhere and had some really good seasons. There was one season there where I think they went 3 rounds in the playoffs. Yep. And then what was it, year before last, where they had a good season. Really, really kind of hoping for those guys and for their sake that they can get that program turned around. It may not all happen this year, but you can see where looking at scoreboard.
They got a new AD over there too.
Yeah.
So
and they've if I remember right, they had to hire last minute, so it was a deal to where you're already behind the 8 ball, and I've got a few coaches that I talk to regularly that they were in the same situation, whether it be COVID or just a very late hire, and you're behind the 8 ball in that first year. There's no way around it, and the fact that they're winning football games in year one's a credit to them.
Yep, 100%. Jumping up into 9-3A Division I, we're going to speed through this one. Cold Spring over Crockett, 42-30 was the final there. did some other podcasts over on the LSG network and stuff. You can go listen to that and we'll really elaborate on that game. And then later on this week, we'll talk about it a little bit more when we're at Bullet Grill House up in Point Blank Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Cold Spring wins that one 42-30 over Crockett. Diboll over Palestine Westwood. Westwood's first game in district this week. 45-7 was the final over there. Shepherd falls to Woodville 42-14. So Woodville goes to and Shepherd both dropped to 1-1 in district.
Yeah.
Diboll 2-0. Palestine Westwood 0-1. Cold Spring 2-0. Crockett 0-2 in the district. And really, when we look at this and we talk about it and how this is going to shape up, there's really a lot to it. And with Crockett being 0-2 right now in district, I don't look for them. They're going to have to play some phenomenal football here in the next week, the coming weeks, in order to turn that around to be able to make the playoffs. And it takes one upset win, really, something against Woodville. They're going to have to beat Huntington. They're going to have to beat somebody like Woodville or Palestine Westwood. Those are crucial games for
It's
Crockett.
not going to be something that's impossible, but it's going to take a lot. We talked about it earlier. I mean, Crockett, you said they've got a really good team. They've got some outstanding players on the team, but it's going to take something to where you've got 5 good teams in that district and you got 4 slots. So somebody's going to be sitting at home that's probably a playoff worthy team.
Yep.
But that's what happens whenever you're in a good district. You're just going to have to win some ball games, and there's very little room for error.
Very little. And I feel like that district's going to come down to Shepherd, Westwood, Cold Spring's going to be hitting that 3-4 spot, and one of those 3 teams are going to be going home. And let's talk about District 9 3A with their games coming up here in Week 7. Woodville's going to be on the road at Cold Spring. It really would be a staple win if Cold Spring could pull the win out here. I don't see that's what's going to happen, but it definitely could be. I look for Cold Spring to possibly make an upset, have that one upset game and between either them and or Diboll. And just going to have to wait and see how that's going to play out. Crockett's going to be on the road at Huntington, Palestine Westwood on the road at Shepherd, and that's the game I'm circling to really focus on.
Well, you talked about Cold Spring looking for that upset win. I mean, we just talked about it 10 minutes earlier with Anahuac.
Yes.
Orangefield going in, similar offense, and there's always that team that doesn't have enough time to prepare for that type of offense, and it has a way of sneaking up on you. And whenever you run an offense like that, you're going to sneak up on somebody that maybe you shouldn't beat, and you may even drop one to where you shouldn't drop, because it's all about in that offense. It's all about what happens really on first down. If you have penalties, if you have negative plays, it puts you behind the chains, and you're forced to do something that you absolutely do not want to do. So it's something to where it's not an insurmountable task for Cold Spring, and especially with that tradition and the expectations that are over there. I wouldn't be shocked, but they're going to need to play a close to flawless game over there.
Anahuac going to be out of District 10 3A. Anahuac going to be on the road at Kirbyville. Tarkington on the road at Orangefield, and I'm missing a game. I don't know who I'm missing, but we're going to scroll down this screen and see if we can't pull it out, who we're missing out of that district. Hardin and Kirbyville are the 2 teams that I'm not seeing on here yet.
I think it was up further.
Buna at East Chambers
There you go.
is the game I'm missing. Hardin's going to be on a bye week this week. So that's what you're looking like out of District 10 3A Division 1. In District 9 3A, we appreciate you tuning in, and thank our sponsors, Randy's Rubs. If you haven't checked them out, get over there and see them. You've had enough time in the last 14 minutes of this podcast to be able to go click on them online and sign up and get something ordered.
I mean, and listen to this podcast again and just open a second window, right, and order you some rubs.
That's all you have to do. You're listening to the 59N Sports. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, get all the notifications, and we'll be at Bullet Grill House every Wednesday night, 6 p.m. with our pregame shows. Y'all come by and see us. Y'all have a great night.